Dr. Larry brings you another segment of Did You Know?
Water. We drink it, we play in it, we bathe in it. We do a lot with water. As a general rule of thumb, we can go without food for a while, but when it comes to water, after about 3 days, our bodies begin to shut down. And just like your brown hair or blue eyes, water has its own physical characteristics, which are in the ground and up in the skies. So when it comes to water, we need to be crystal clear on this substance that's both far and near. Why? Well, whatever is in the water we drink, our soil, or in the lakes where we have fun or toil, that water and what's in it will be absorbed in us, and therefore it's good to know if something will give our intestines a fuss. But there's no way we can become a chemist or a biologist overnight. So thankfully, there are water professionals who their entire business revolves around water. So pay close attention to our next guest. She's an owner of a special type of water testing facility, which will be the main focus of our show today. So for the sake of simplicity, we'll call this segment Ask the Owner. Jen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dr. Larry. Good to be here. Thank you.
Yes, I've been excited to have you come on because, I knew you in your past career and then known you in your current career, which we're going to dive into in the show. And, even some of the conversations we have, and I'm not going to give out any spoilers because that's going to be your job. It's really unique with this business that you're involved in right now and really ties into overall healthcare. And so we're going to kind of dabble into that. But for the few formalities that we need to get out of the way first, why don't you give us your full name?
I'm Jennifer Toivonen.
Okay. And what degrees do you have and where did you go to school?
I went to school at Michigan Technological University. My original degree is a bachelor's degree in biology with a minor in physical science. And then I also have a master's degree in applied science education. And then I have a certificate for teaching high school science.
Okay, great. So, and your previous work experience was what? Where'd you work?
I worked at Forest Park High School for 25 years, and I taught all of the different sciences. It's a very small school, so by the time I was done teaching, after 25 years, I was the science department. When I started, there were 2 of us, and then the school got smaller. And so we just ended up with 1, but we still offered all the classes. So that was fun and it was challenging, which is what I like.
Sure. And so after 25 years, you decided to make a career change, and you got a job, and you decided, and you started at the job. What was your first position at the job that you started? And we'll get into where that place is too.
Okay. I started as what we call the login specialist. So I would take in all of the samples and work with the clients and determine the analysis that they wanted. So it was very customer driven, but also very useful with, I have a strong chemistry background to be able to just kind of talk fluently, even though I was completely new to the business.
Yep. And what is that business that you went to as you started out as that first entry level job? What's the name of that business?
So I started at Whitewater Associates of AMISA.
Okay. And for those that know the area, everybody pretty much knows where it's at. But for outside the area, and for folks that are traveling or listening in or tuning in from outside the county or even outside the state, where exactly is it located? Is there landmark it's next to where people might know as far as the building goes, or is it off on its own in the woods?
Well, the landmark is really Tall Pines Grocery, and because you see that right on the highway, and we're just tucked in right behind you. You can't see us. There are pine trees. It's very deceptive when you're in the building. It's like you're in the forest, but the highway is just right out there.
Right. So you started out as that I don't want to call it an entry level position, but a data processing position and from there things changed, and now voila, what's your current title?
So my current title is I'm a co-lab director. I'm co-lab directing with Betty Primo, who is the original founder of the company, and she's really been a mentor and coworker. So she's teaching me what I need to know.
Excellent. So there's some training in there. And are you a co-owner of the facility as well, too?
Yes. Yep. Sally Headkey is my business partner. And it was actually her idea a few years ago. She said, hey, we should buy the business. And because it really didn't occur to me. I didn't think it was something that I really could just do. But I was game for it and said, sure, let's try this.
Took the plunge and did it. And like you said, they have a long history and a track record. And so a very stable business and kind of again, right in line with your degrees and your experience and kind of like said some new things as well, too. Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's overview what actually the business is, like kind of like almost like a 1 to 2 sentence or even longer, like a mission statement, a theme, what actually Whitewater Associates is. So
we are an analytical laboratory, so we analyze water, soil, and then we also have an ecological side where we do environmental studies.
Okay. And a brief history of the company as well, too. So how it started and how it evolved.
It started in 1985. Betty and Dean Primo started the business basically out of the basement of their home. And then they built a small building in Amasa on our current location. And then it doubled in size in 2016, adding more laboratory space and offices. So since 1985, it's grown quite a bit. Their original intent was to be able to work in their field in the place that other people come to vacation.
And they must have nailed it because, here they're working in the field in the place that people come vacation. That's why I worked you over for the landmark because I know people that vacation here as well, too. They know Tall Pines. They know where that's at. But when I looked at the map, it's a little bit off the beaten path or tucked away, like you said. So the next thing is our types of clients and customers, because for those that out there that are kind of non-science, or if we use terms even like your title, some people may draw a blank. But when we talk about types of customers that you have, that's the everyday Joe, Mary, and Sue who would be utilizing your services. So what are your types or your average types of clients or customers that you have? Who comes to see you and what do they do? What kind of business do they do with you?
So we have many private well owners. Sometimes people built a new house, or when they purchase a house and it's got a well, then they decide to do a number of tests on the water just to be sure that it's safe. So those are our private well clients. We also work with municipalities, townships, cities for their municipal water supplies, keeping it safe. We also work with companies that are releasing water into the environment, so they're effluent after their process, whatever it is. Maybe it's mining or paper type of industries. They use a lot of water, and that water is going to be released back to the environment, and we want to be sure that it is safe.
Okay.
And then also power companies are another big one because of their dams, basically. So they have a lot of regulations on them, especially according to the species that are utilizing their water system, and is the dam impacting those creatures, kind of a thing. So the local power companies are a big customer for us too.
Let me roll back to the average person that has a well, and they said maybe a new residence or they're building a house. That they come to you, and the hope is that the water that they're going to be using in the well is pure enough to drink. So is that something where the well digging company gets a hold of you and says, "Hey, we need to get this tested because we're building a well"? Or is that on the homeowner or consumer to figure that out on their own?
It's somewhat on the well driller, and it depends on the county by the health department. But pretty much for the well driller, they test just for coliform bacteria. And there are obviously a number of other things that are going to affect the quality of water. I would never recommend buying a home without having the water tested first, because coliform bacteria, that's your immediate cause of concern. Am I going to be sick right now? But there are the long-term consequences, like with lead, arsenic, nitrates. Those are the big group that I think of automatically, that you want to be sure that water is safe. So, my children, they have their own homes, but they're on municipal water supplies. But we test the water anyway so that we know what is in their home. Are their pipes contributing anything to the quality of the water that they're drinking?
So, and when you say municipal, you mean anybody that lives in a city, town, where the water is supplied to them from the city or town, right? Right. So we in one respect, as me personally, a homeowner inside of a city, it's one of those things to not assume that the municipality has everything covered. And so it's almost in a sense a little wise too to have an average homeowner consumer could go out and have their water tested as well too to see what's in it. Correct? If I'm hearing that correctly. Right.
The municipalities are wonderful for checking all of the big things. They go much further into the VOCs and herbicides and pesticides. Are those present in the water? They're checking for PFAS, which is a big topic currently. And then they check for the usual things like the lead, the nitrate, the arsenic on a regular basis. But your home internal plumbing system also can have an effect, mostly on lead. Is lead going to be present? And we'll think, well, we don't have lead pipes, but is there lead solder? Is there any lead in the appliances, the faucet kind of a thing? And you only have to check it once. Check it once. If it's safe, then lead is not something you need to check on a yearly basis. Just get a baseline. If it's good, you're good to go.
People can't see me nodding my head up and down because when I asked that question, I was like, okay, the municipalities, they've got to have some pretty strict criteria. Mm-hmm. So where my gap in thinking was, they're not going to test it once it gets into your house. That's where the testing comes in to find out as it trickles through the pipes and gets through the faucet, is it picking up anything it shouldn't?
Right.
Bingo. Okay, got it. Thanks for clarifying that as well too. Let's pull back a little bit. What's it like working there?
Oh, it's great. It's been great ever since I started. We have a great team of people, very comfortable. People just have a good rapport. I think they feel comfortable being who they are there. We're different. We're not all the same type. You might think, science types, but, everybody has their own take on things. As long as people are hardworking and they want to do the job to the best of their ability, then you're going to fit in. We've got people, most of our people are chemists and biologists, but we also have a social worker who took over my position in the login position. If you just want to learn about the water and doing things correctly, you don't need a biology and a chemistry degree, although it's helpful.
Sure. Yeah. And my kids, and I think one of the radio station guys brought this up to me as well too. I bring my son in, he runs the board at the radio station. He's like, it'd be really neat. He goes to have some other people from the community just kind of come out, check out WIKB, the radio station. And then I always think about these things as I see patients in the community. I'm in the community as well too. I've had kids shadow me here while I'm at the office, so I sent 3 of my kids out there to take a tour of the place. And one of the things they came back and said to me, Daddy, it is so clean there. And it is, by the way, and they have such a pretty setting and it's such a really nice office. So overall, just like as far as the environment goes. And then I said, I give you that feedback. You're like, well, it should be because we test water and it should be pure. So that was kind of a funny feedback. As far as the day-to-day tasks and operations go, so just kind of give us a little bit of a couple of bullet points there too, like the day-to-day tasks, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What goes on? What are the gears like? How is it like as far as day-to-day tasks and operations? What do you have to do?
So we get samples in from a lot of people send them in via the post office, and we have clients that drop in with samples. So the samples come in, we look at what we call the chain of custody, making sure that it's filled out correctly, dates, times, what parameters need to be analyzed. And then we have what are called like short hold tests. Those we want to get filtered over to the analyst as quickly as possible. They're some are 8-hour tests, 24-hour tests, 48-hour tests. But if you're getting them in the mail and they're already aging, and so we have a lot of regulations from Eagle and the EPA that we have to meet. So those are those deadline tests. Those are things like BODs, coliform bacteria, pH, turbidity. Those have to be done more rapidly. Metals, we preserve metals, and then they can sit for 180 days. We don't want them to, but the samples. So the login person then gets the samples to each person. People have specific jobs. We have one person that's doing the wet chemistry on the discrete analyzer, and so she runs all of the wastewater for phosphorus, chloride, sulfate, nitrate, ammonia. Those are more, she can run drinking waters there, but wastewater is the dominant one for that. And then we have another analyst who's working with solids, biochemical oxygen demand, total solids, total suspended solids, total dissolved solids. And then we have the metals department, and they are just like it sounds, and they do all of the metals. And then we also have HPIC, which runs drinking water for the anions, the negative ions that are in your water. And the big ones there would be like nitrate and nitrite that people want to know about, because those are the immediate health concerns.
Sure.
You have parameters that are of health concerns, and then you have parameters that are more aesthetic. Does it kind of smell? Does it taste a little bit bad? Those are very secondary to the health concerns.
So essentially, people bring in samples to you, or they come in the mail. Mm-hmm. Okay. And from there, it gets split up into wet samples, solid, and metal.
Yes.
Okay. When you say metal, are you talking actually like a piece of steel?
Right. No, it's the water.
Okay.
And so in the water, that's where you're going to be testing, your copper, your lead, arsenic, zinc, all of the metals on the periodic table, which is the vast majority of elements of the periodic table.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So, and I was thinking, I'm like, wait a second. They have, do I bring a piece of steel and they'll test that out to see what kind of, no. But that makes sense. Okay. So, as far as, people doing business with you, so I'm an average consumer right now. I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, I own a home, or I'm digging a well, or, I live in a municipality, or I'm out in the woods. What is the best way, and we're not done with the segment yet because we got some other things I want to get through, but what is the best way? How do you guys like for a new customer to get a hold of you? Do you prefer online, sending out? How do you guys like to do business? What's the most efficient way for a new customer to get a hold of you?
People should feel free to call us. We like to talk with the customer, and then we get a feel for what parameters we're going to recommend that they test. The other option is also online. We are having our website updated. And so as of next month, people will be able to order drinking water kits or pond water quality kits directly online. But if you're new, I would recommend giving us a call, and we can, that way we can tailor the kit that we send to you for what you need. And we're not trying to oversell, because there are, you could spend quite an amount of money on different analyses, but we're going to look at the immediate health concerns, what are most common in the area, and then what other might be particular interests to you. We had a guy call, it was probably about 2 weeks ago, and he wanted VOCs, volatile organic compounds. And I was like, okay. Do you live near a gas station? And, oh, yep, we're about a block away from an old gas station, and so we're concerned with volatile organic compounds or PFAS. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, is there PFAS in the water? Well, it depends on where you live. And then, the recommendation might not be for them to actually get PFAS testing. Where I live out in the middle of nowhere, it's not likely that we're going to have PFAS by us. We don't have an old dump. It's about 2 miles away. But if you live perhaps near what used to be a dump and you have a more shallow well, then PFAS testing is something you should consider. Although it is, that one's, I think, $360 for one test.
So it's better, like you said, to call, and then you can start asking questions about where they live, their location, what their setup is, and then you can kind of almost put it like your own little algorithm down together, so you can say, this is what we should send out for you. Right. Instead of a consumer calling up and saying, I want this. Because it wouldn't, some of the testing wouldn't make sense and could cost and spend needless money. So in a sense, so the phone call is the best way to go, and we'll give out that phone number at the end of the show for sure. And then they talk to you directly, Jen, or
they might talk with me or Betty or Ashley. There are a number of us that will take the call and give some recommendations.
Excellent. So that kind of dovetails into how we're going to finish up the segment here. I want you to detail 3 unique services that Whitewater offers, and we're kind of touching on that a little bit, but something that we can really latch onto as far as a consumer goes. Even if I'm a business owner and I have water that my employees use, or maybe I'm a construction guy and maybe I just put a new house in, or maybe I did a reno at a house, and I'm listening to this going, that would be a wise thing to have this person have their water tested. So again, this kind of fits into that narrative there. So what's the first, or let's explain one unique benefit to the consumer or service you guys offer? So
the first thing I would that comes to mind is often with a well, a new construction well, or you're purchasing a well, the bank, the mortgage, they just want you to do a coliform test. To me, I just am quizzical about that. Why would you only do coliform? That's, again, your immediate concern. But as a baseline, you need to know lead, arsenic, nitrate, nitrite. Those cause serious health effects. And so you want to know what those levels are. The coliform and the nitrate, nitrite is recommended that you test once a year, especially if you have any kind of changes. But lead and arsenic, you check them once. If you are in a very safe, non-detect level, great, go from there. Another thing that I think about is the EPA standard for lead is 15 parts per million. But as the safe level, what is the safe level for a child? 0. Your pediatrician is going to say no lead in the water. So you might live in a municipality that the lead level is a 6. And if you consider that okay for your family, maybe you're going to think I'd rather get a filter. Water is the most vital nutrient that we have. And so we can't overlook that it's safe just because it's cool, it's clear, it looks clean. Oh, it tastes good. Well, what's really in it? And we just recommend that you check it out and Like I said, you don't have to do it every year. Just get a baseline.
Get a baseline for as far as. Do you have like a off the cuff, like I call it like a case study or a patient example or a customer example where you detected something, you got a hold of them, or do you have one of those examples?
Well, I can think of right away. We had a client. She actually works for the health department, and she was getting her water tested for fluoride. And fluoride is another one you want to know. It's very uncommon in just a private well, but municipal water is going to be fluoridated, most likely at some level. So she wanted the fluoride tested, and one of the people working in the lab recognized her name. And when you run fluoride, you also get results for nitrate and nitrite. It's the same instrument that runs it. And they knew that she was expecting a baby, and her nitrite levels came up above the recommended amount. And so even though she wasn't testing for nitrite, she only requested fluoride, our analyst said, well, we need to tell her that her nitrite levels are not considered safe for a pregnant woman. So, that was a great catch. And actually, if we see that at any time, we would let the client know, even if they were looking for one parameter and another one came up, where we would say, oh, that's a health hazard. We're going to let them, to let them know.
Have you ever caught something where somebody was experiencing symptom X, Y, or Z? You found something in the water, and then they were able to remedy the situation by that? Can you give us an example of that?
Well, sure. Up north around Lake Superior, they have an issue with fracturing of bedrock. So in the spring, when we're getting the big melt and the surface water is running, well, it has a tendency to run through these fractures and into people's wells. And so that can introduce coliform bacteria, and then it can also introduce E. coli. And E. coli is going to make you very sick. So, we kept testing for this woman, and in the meantime, she was drinking bottled water, and she had a casing put into like 50 feet, and did that, then sent tests again, and nope, the E. coli was still in the water, so she had to go down like a 100-foot casing, and then finally, that was keeping the surface water out of her well. And then, it's very handy to be able to drink the water that's coming out of your faucet and not have to boil it for 3 minutes to make it safe. So, those are things that people immediately know that, oh, my stomach feels a little funny. I'm not feeling so good. That's general coliform. The violent illness of the stomach is E. coli, and you can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. I always remember this guy who sent us in a sample, and it was positive for both coliform and E. coli, and so I gave him a call, and he says, well, I feel just fine, but all of my guests that come, they complain that, oh, they get so just sick to their stomach, and they can't drink my water. And I said, well, yep, the reason is because you have E. coli in your water. Oh, well, I've been drinking it for 10 years. Well, I don't know how some people, I guess, have resistance to E. coli, but not everybody.
And not the guests that were coming by.
Right.
So that, as far as like restaurants go, is it same thing as far as a consumer? Are you contacted by restaurants to make sure that their water is good for the people that they're...
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Generally, they are monthly or quarterly sending in samples. They send in their nitrite samples just once a year to get a baseline. But their coliform testing is coming in, like I said, monthly or quarterly. So we're keeping up to date, and, most people, no problem passing. So the water is safe in general wherever you go. Every now and then something happens. It tends to be in spring, it seems, where that surface water is running off and entering a well. Bacteria don't live in a well for very long. They love human body temperatures. They want 100 degrees. So in a well, if you have persistent bacteria, it is coming in from a source. So you want to definitely eliminate that source. It could be a septic system. It could be farming nearby. So you just want to make sure that your water is safe to drink.
Yeah. Is it a requirement, and if you don't know the answer, that's fine, but it's just a curious question. Do all restaurants in, let's say, state of Michigan, Wisconsin, but we'll say state of Michigan, do they have to have as a requirement to be in business to have their water tested?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes, they do. And the health department, they will be on that right away. If they haven't sent in their quarterly or their monthly sample, there are people working at the health department that are checking into it constantly to make sure everybody is right on board. So
another question too. If I go to a restaurant and the water tastes like chlorine, like really bad, is it, what am I tasting there and why? Because it seems to, and I'm not saying locally around here, but just it seems, because a lot of times when you're local, I'm not going out to eat, I'm going if I'm out of the area. But all of a sudden you get something, you order water, and it's like, it tastes like a swimming pool. Yes,
that happens. In bigger cities, they use more chlorine in order to keep the water safe. And you'll taste it after a chlorination event, and then usually it'll ease up. Even locally, sometimes you'll taste the one, you're like, that smells a little bit bleachy, and not very much, just a little bit of a taste. And that could be a recent chlorination event, and it's moving through the system, and then it comes down to, just levels that you can't taste it. But bigger cities, oh my goodness.
That's where I notice it as well. Yeah, it seems to be like almost anywhere you go, bigger suburbs, say it's like you're drinking pool water.
Yes.
And like you said earlier in the show as well too, don't assume because it's clear, it looks good, and it tastes good that there's stuff in there that shouldn't be in your body. So again, don't hey, well, my water tastes good and I feel just fine. There could be other, and I didn't get into the chronic ailments, conditions, the long-term process that could lead to further problems down the road. Yeah, intestinal distress is going to get our attention, but if you're drinking water and it tastes good, looks good, is fine, but there's things in there that shouldn't be, that can have some long-term effects, and that might be something we might want to dive into, like in a different show. Jen, you've done an awesome job answering these questions. I had a couple more here too. We've got to wrap up the segment, but as far as people, you heard the best way to get a hold of Jen, whether you're an individual with a well, you're in a municipality. I had to focus on that word too. I almost skirted it. I was like, nope, you got to say it, Dr. Larry. You got to say Jen said it. You say it, municipality. And then, so anyway, I had to think about my brain as well too. If a listener wants to use your services, how should they contact Whitewater Associate? What's the phone number?
Our number is 906-822-7889.
Okay. So, folks, again, you heard it. Generally speaking, if you have and you are a water drinker, as we all should be, and we didn't get into bottled water, we didn't get into types of water, all that kind of stuff too, which again would be a whole nother great show to get into. But you heard it from Jen. There are things that you should and have tested and don't assume are being tested. And sometimes it's just a one-off test that you need. Definitely give them a call. They will guide you through the type of test you need, how to do it. They've been in business for 40 years?
Close to it.
Close to 40 years?
Yep.
Okay. Built from the ground up. And here again, Jen started as an employee, and they bought the business with another partner. So one of these wonderful, we'll call it American stories here as well too, where you can build and and create a business or buy a business as well too, and they've just kind of taken the ball and run with it. And I think too, you mentioned you even are trying to expand as well into another smaller lab in a different area.
Yes.
So, and I know you said you were updating the computer systems as well too.
Yep.
Okay, all that fun stuff. So Jen's taking the ball with her partner, and they're just running with it. And the current owners are still working there as well.
Oh yes, yep. They're wonderful mentors for everybody that's working there.
Wonderful. So folks, you got the phone number. Jen, why don't you give them the phone number one more time, and then we'll close the show.
906-822-7889. Give us a call.
Appreciate you coming on the show. Folks, you heard it right from Jen. If you have any further questions, give them a holler.
All right. Thank you.